Hello and a very warm welcome to Cat's Cartoon Club. I'm Phil, I'm the curate at St Catherine's and I'll be leading Cat's Cartoon Club this month. Every month we have a Cat's Cartoon Club on the first Saturday of the month, and when coronavirus is gone we'll meet together to watch cartoons on the big screen, eat popcorn and think about them. But for now we're a digital club, which means that we need to watch the cartoon on our own and then meet together online to have a little think about it. I'm sure you already know what this month's cartoon is, but if you don't, perhaps you can guess from my hat. That's right, it's Frozen. And I tried to wear this hat to get in the mood, but to be honest with you, it's a little bit small for me. It belongs to my 7-year-old daughter. So I'm going to show you the hat and then I'm going to put it away so it stops getting in the way. Yes, so as I was saying, this month we have been watching Frozen. It was actually on TV over the Christmas holidays. So if you haven't seen it, it should still be on the BBC iPlayer. So my suggestion now is, if you haven't seen Frozen but would like to, now might be a good time to pause this video, go and watch it, and then come back and watch the end of Cat's Cartoon Club. If you have watched it, or you don't want to watch it but you're still interested, keep watching, and in a few moments' time I'll recap the film for those who've seen it and explain it to those who haven't. So if you haven't seen Frozen, or you have but need a reminder, here's a quick summary of part of it. I'm not going to do the whole film because it's a very long film, but this is what takes us up to the iconic part of Frozen that I'm going to be talking about later. So the story of Frozen begins with two princesses, Anna and Elsa. Now, Elsa has magic powers. She can control ice and snow and conjure it up out of nowhere. And Elsa and Anna love playing with these special powers. They make snowmen. You can see Olaf, the snowman that they've made there. And as you see, Elsa's makes ice rinks for them to play on. So they have lots of fun playing. But one day, Elsa accidentally hurts Anna in the process. Their mum and dad rush to see some mountain trolls who make Anna better, but they have to wipe her memories so that she can't remember Elsa's powers. Time goes by, and unfortunately, the king and queen, their parents, die, which means that Elsa turns into a bit of a recluse. She hides away, really scared and worried that anyone will learn about her powers. And as she gets older, she discovers her powers start bursting out of her whenever she feels particularly emotional. So the years and years go by. They stay locked in their rooms, not letting anyone into the castle. But then Elsa turns 18, and it's time for her coronation to become Queen of Arendelle. So the coronation comes, and Elsa's pretty stressed out about that. She's worried about all the emotions coming out and her accidentally revealing her powers to everyone. But she manages to get through the coronation without all her powers spilling out, and she's doing very well. But then Anna drops a bombshell. You see, Anna meets a prince called Hans, who asks her to marry him, and she agrees. And they go and they tell Elsa and ask for Elsa's approval of the marriage, which Elsa really thinks is a bad idea because they've just met, and all of her emotions kind of bubble up, and all the powers start coming out of her. And what happens is they do come out of her, and she brings about an eternal winter over all of Arendelle. And in a panic of what she's done, scared of hurting anyone else, she runs away into the mountains, where she creates her very own ice palace that she plans to spend the rest of her life living in on her own. And that's the point in the story, in the film, in fact, where we get the really famous song called Let It Go. And unfortunately, because of copyright, I can't play you the song, which I would love to do. So what I've done it on my own. I was going to sing it for you, but to be honest with you, I'm a little bit embarrassed to sing in front of you. So instead of me singing it, I've been out in the garden, and I've got a little squirrel that lives in my garden, and I've asked the squirrel if he will sing a bit of Let It Go for me, just to give you a flavour. And I'm going to put that on for you now.
Snow goes whiter on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm a queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Oh, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Don't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn around and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. Cold never bothered me anyway.
So I don't know what you made of my friend the squirrel singing Let It Go. Maybe you enjoyed it, maybe it was a little bit painful. But I thought it was important that we hear Let It Go, even though we don't have the copyrights, because I think it's a really catchy song. It's a really good song, isn't it? But it's a song that really tells us how Elsa is feeling. When I watch Frozen and I see that scene with Elsa and hear that song and the things leading up to it, I realise how many different emotions she must have had flowing around inside her. Nervousness, relief having got through the coronation, fear of what might happen, anger at Anna and Hans maybe dropping this bombshell on her. There's a lot going on. She was very overwhelmed, which is why she ran away and sings that song. When I read the Bible, I think there's lots of characters in the Bible who might have felt a bit like Elsa, a bit overwhelmed at times. And one character who I think quite often got overwhelmed, there was lots that happened in his life that was overwhelming, was Peter. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch another cartoon about Peter, and then after we've watched that cartoon, we're going to have a little think about what might be similar and what might be different about Peter and about Elsa.
The Miracle of Mercy, Peter. This is Peter.
Hey-oh! Whoop!
Peter was a fisherman who was called by Jesus.
Hey!
Peter saw the many miracles of Jesus, and he heard all of his teachings. When the time came for Jesus to die and take away the sins of all the world, Jesus had one final meal with his friends. During this meal, Jesus told his followers that the time had come for him to leave them.
Huh?
Peter asked, "Where are you going?" Jesus told him Peter couldn't follow him now,
What?
but that he would follow him later.
Wait a second.
But Peter said, "Why can't I come now? I'm ready to die for you." Jesus said, "Die for me? Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even knew me." Then Jesus and his disciples went to the Mount of Olives so Jesus could pray. Along the way, Jesus told his followers that they would all abandon him.
Uh-oh.
But Peter said, "Even if everyone else leaves you, I never will." Jesus said, "Peter, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." But Peter wouldn't believe it and vowed that he would stay with Jesus until the very end. The other disciples vowed the same.
Yeah, I hear.
Later on that night, Jesus was arrested by men sent by the religious teachers and priests. Peter tried to fight for Jesus, and he cut off the ear of one of the guards.
Ow!
But Jesus healed the guard
Huh?
and went quietly with the captors. All the disciples scattered just as Jesus told them they would. The men led Jesus away to the house of the high priest. Peter and another disciple followed them. Peter came to warm himself by their fire.
Hello.
A servant girl noticed him in the firelight.
Huh?
Finally, she said, "This man was one of Jesus' followers."
Oh, ma?
But Peter denied it for the first time. He said, "I don't even know him." After a while, someone else looked at him and said, "You must be one of them."
Oh.
Peter, for a second time, said, "No, I'm not."
Okay.
About an hour later, a man who knew the man whose ear Peter cut off said, "Didn't I see you in the olive grove with Jesus? This must be one of them. He comes from the same place as all of them."
Yeah, you're right.
But Peter said,
No.
"I don't know what you're talking about." And then Peter heard the crow of the rooster. Jesus turned and looked at Peter. Jesus' words flashed through his mind, and Peter left the courtyard weeping. Then Jesus died and was placed in a tomb. The disciples heard that he had come back from the dead. Peter even saw the empty tomb and believed that Jesus was alive again.
Woo-hoo!
And Jesus appeared to the disciples to show him that he was alive. Some of Jesus' followers were together when Peter said, "I am going fishing."
Okay.
So they all went out to the sea, but caught nothing all night. At dawn, they saw a man standing on the beach.
Oh, hey, over here.
The man called out to them and said, "Have you caught any fish?"
Nope.
The man said, "Throw out your net on the right side and you'll get some."
Okay.
So they did, and they couldn't bring in the net because there were so many fish in it. Then one of the men on the boat said to Peter, "It's Jesus." When Peter heard that it was Jesus, he swam to the shore while the others pulled in the load to the boat. When they got there, they found breakfast waiting for them.
I miss a fish. Got it.
Jesus said, "Come have some breakfast." While they were eating, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes, you know I love you." So Jesus said, "Then feed my lambs." Then Jesus asked again, "Do you love me?" Peter said again, "Yes, you know I love you." And Jesus said, "Then take care of my sheep." And then a third time Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time, so he said, "You know everything. You know that I love you." So Jesus said one last time, "Then feed my sheep." And so Peter went on to feed Jesus' sheep by helping establish the church and by writing books that we can now read in the Bible. And though he denied Jesus, he was forgiven, and many came to know the love and forgiveness of Jesus through Peter.
So I think there are similarities between Elsa and Peter. So I think for me the biggest similarity is that they were both feeling quite overwhelmed at the point we left them in the cartoons and the stories. Elsa is feeling very overwhelmed. She's just got through the coronation, so she's feeling relieved that she's got through the coronation, maybe still a bit nervous because she's still in public. And then Anna has come up to her with Hans and said, "We want to get married," even though they've just met, which is an extra layer for Elsa, and it's just too much. And that's why she runs away. She's overwhelmed with all this stuff and she just runs away. And similarly, I think Peter was probably feeling quite overwhelmed at that point. He's had an awful lot going on as well. Don't forget, in the last couple of days, he's seen his best friend, Jesus, arrested and crucified. So he's feeling sad, probably. He's also got the memory of the fact that he denied even knowing Jesus. So he's probably feeling a bit guilty as well. He's also been hearing rumours that Jesus has come back to life, which will bring with it some hope and maybe some happiness, maybe some confusion. And now he's seen Jesus on the shore. So it's probably all bubbling up and quite overwhelming for him. So I think both of our characters are probably feeling overwhelmed. And in one sense, they deal with it quite similarly, don't they? Elsa runs away, whereas Peter jumps into the water and swims. So there's a definite desire to run and get some energy out and do something. But there's a big difference between them, isn't there? Elsa runs away. She runs to the ice palace that she makes. She wants to be on her own, so she's running away. Whereas Peter is swimming, and he's swimming to Jesus. Elsa wants to be on her own. Peter wants to be with Jesus. And when we compare those two actions, actually, they both have very different consequences, don't they? The consequence for Elsa running away is that actually Arendelle is stuck in this eternal winter and the kingdom is in danger and she's not there to try and fix it and try and put it right. So it's actually a really bad thing that Elsa has done by running away. Whereas Peter, by swimming over to Jesus, he gets forgiven by Jesus, and Jesus gives him the very special job of leading the church. So the consequence of Peter swimming to Jesus is that the good news of Jesus, the message of Jesus, is spread throughout the whole world. And we have Cats Cartoon Club because Peter did that. So running away to be on our own was a bad thing for Elsa, whereas running to Jesus was a good thing for Peter. And I think that's a really helpful thing for us to remember today, because just like Peter and just like Elsa, we can all get overwhelmed with things. We all have different feelings and different emotions that bubble up in us. And sometimes when they get overwhelming, it can be quite tempting to think, I just want to run away and pretend they're not there and be on my own. But actually, I think what Peter shows us is actually if we run to Jesus, he can help us. If we're feeling guilty, he can forgive us like he did to Peter. If we're feeling worried, he can reassure us. If we're feeling angry, he can help us think more calmly about it and maybe stop feeling quite so angry. So I think when we look at these two stories, we can see that we do often feel like we want to run away. But sometimes it's better to do what Peter did than what Elsa did. It's better to run to Jesus than it is to run to be on our own. So now we're coming to our activity. And if you look in the description box for this video, you'll see a PDF to download and print. And if you do that, you'll end up with a piece of paper like this, which says running to a friend at the top. I don't know if you can read it. It might be backwards because of the screen. But the activity that we're doing this month is we are going to be drawing a comic under the title Running to a Friend. And you can do whatever you want with this. The only thing we ask is that somebody in this story runs to a friend. So have a think. It can be anything you like. It can be yourself. It can be your favourite characters from TV. It can be someone you've made up. It can be anyone you like, but we'd like in this story to have someone running to a friend. And two things to say on this. Firstly, there's only 6 boxes on here, but there's no reason whatsoever why you couldn't print off 2 copies and have 12 boxes if you wanted to have a slightly longer story. And the other thing to say is that if you watched Cats Cartoon Club last month in December, you'll remember that we did something similar based around the Muppet Christmas Carol. So just to let you know, if you think we're doing the same thing again, that's because we want to do this every time. And if you keep joining in with Cats Cartoon Club, at the end of the year or a couple of months, you could end up with your own comic made up of all these little stories in comic form that you've made, which will all fit together and remind you of all the thinking we've been doing and all the films we've been enjoying. So do give that a go. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that now. So now we're coming towards the end of Cats Cartoon Club for this month. We'll be back next month for February, for the 6th of February. We'll be meeting again. We don't know right now whether it will just be online or whether we might be able to get into the church hall to watch on that big screen. So remember the 6th of February, 10 o'clock. There will be a Facebook video coming up just like this one. But Corona depending, we may be able to meet physically to watch the film on the big screen. So keep checking back on our Facebook page for more details. We'll let you know as soon as we know. We'll also let you know what the film is. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't done the Muppet Christmas Carol, do watch the Muppet Christmas Carol while it's still wintry and kind of Christmassy, and enjoy last month's Cats Cartoon Club. But I will see you again next month on the 6th of February, definitely online, but maybe, you never know, in person. So take care, God bless, and I will see you soon.